In video games, a massive issue that players have is struggling with something referred to as tunnel vision. This essentially just means that even though this is what is on their screen, this is what they actually see. Now, although aim is one of the most important parts of the game, this is heavily what causes players to not rank up. Because as you can see, we're missing out on absolutely crucial information related to our teammates in this image. In Valorant, players are a critical resource in the game. Deaths in a round are largely unavoidable. Eventually, someone is likely going to die. We've all been there in those situations where our teammates all lose their gunfights, and all we can help but think is, man, my team really sucks. Which might be true, maybe your team does suck. But it might surprise you to hear that dying is a crucial part of the game, and not all deaths are considered bad. For example, if one of your teammates dies and you're paying attention and get 3 kills off of it, that's actually a pretty good death. Your teammate dying was necessary for you to get those 3 kills. It could have been either one of you that died, but all that matters is that someone on your team got set up to make a play. However, the problem comes when your teammate dies for nothing. If your teammate dies and you weren't paying attention, so you got 0 trade kills and 0 space off of it, you're just getting set back. The problem many low elo players run into is that they essentially just watch their teammates run in and die without making any effort to do anything about it. This is just the first of 7 low elo mistakes that you're making every single game that we're going to be going over in today's video. We'll go step by step covering 6 more massive mistakes that you make every single game and how you can fix them. Such as mistake number 2, which is overcommitting. This can be as subtle as choosing to short peek versus choosing to jump peek for info. Even the slightest misstep could result in your death, so you need to be really careful. The best way to avoid this mistake is to think ahead and understand if taking a fight there would even give you an advantage, or if it would be worth it. Remember, if you're peeking into multiple players, you do not have the advantage. So if you hear 3 members of the enemy team barreling down on you, maybe it's not a great idea to dry swing that angle. If the enemy team knows where you are, or if you only have one place you can peek from, it's also likely that you don't have the advantage. If the enemy has better weapons for that range, you don't have the advantage. As you can see, it's important to think about all of the factors that come into play before just randomly swinging angles. Aside from this, try to recognize when a round is likely lost. If your team is down 3 people, don't start ripping your ultimate on a retake just because. Maybe wait for a kill or 2 to take place before you decide to commit that ultimate. It might not even be worth it to go for it in the first place if your team has a low economy. Saving is something that players don't utilize enough in matchmaking, and sometimes you just have to know when it's time to call around. Imagine you're on a sentient market and you get tagged down to 30 HP by the enemy in mid. Instead of peeking again and risking your life, fall back to a safer position or ask a teammate to rotate and help you. By not overcommitting to these fights when you're already low HP, you keep yourself alive longer and maintain a stronger presence on the map. Trust me when I say that knowing when to back off can often be the difference between a win and a loss. You know what else can be the difference between a win and a loss? Your freaking movement. And let me tell you that some of your guys' movement really sucks. It's just horrible. It's not about learning to dead zone or counter strafe either. It's just the way that you peek angles is really slow. Like, take a look at this peek. This guy gets one shot immediately. No amount of aiming is going to fix this. So if you want to fix this, we've published over at SkillCapped the Ultimate Movement God course that will showcase exactly how you can fix your movement in under 20 minutes. That's right, one course and you'll be looking like this. Afterwards, you're also welcome to ask questions in our Ask a Pro Discord server, where our coaches will give you direct feedback into whatever you're struggling with, and you can even send in VODs and have coaches take a look at them. All this is also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't climb, you don't pay. It's pretty insane value. You get dozens of courses, hundreds of videos, personalized feedback, and even VOD reviews. Like, that's freaking nuts. Check it out using the link in the description below. Let's dive into mistake number 3 though, forgetting to communicate. Listen up because this one is crucial. Players likely aren't trying to avoid communication, but many just don't realize what they should be saying and when it's the right time to talk. First off, specific times to talk are during the beginning of rounds and during post plans. At the start of the round, coordinating with your teammates and coming up with a plan might be one of the easiest things to do. You have so much free time to talk when nothing else can happen. Do literally anything. Most players will pop a surrender vote before they even try to come up with some sort of strategy with their team. Please, just say literally anything during the pre-round. Now, during gunfights or while holding angles, it's usually best to actually avoid talking. You need to focus during these critical moments, and since gunfights are one of the most important parts of the game, they require a lot of your attention, especially when you're new to the game. While, of course, it's optimal and the best players can talk while they're taking gunfights, for the most part, you really shouldn't be focusing on it. Okay, so we got a time when you should talk and a time when you shouldn't talk. What else? Well, this might surprise you, but when you're dead is actually a super helpful time to be talking. Now, most people are going to be like, well, isn't that backseating? But it's got to be useful information. Don't tell people what to do. Instead, relay important details that they might have missed out on. Sometimes those people alive are just preoccupied with fights, or maybe they're just bad at communicating. If they hear something and don't say it for them. For example, if my teammate hears 3 enemies pushing A but doesn't call it out, I can step in and I can just say there's 3A. It's all about filling in the gaps and making sure that everyone has the intel that they need to succeed. Or here's even a funny thing that I do sometimes when I'm dead? Sometimes I tell people to do things like I am the other person alive with them. Like, hey, can you come double up in hell? The other guy isn't going to say no most of the time. He's just not going to say anything. This way, even though I'm not alive, I can get my two teammates who clearly aren't on the same page at least executing the same strategy. Remember, communication isn't just about yelling enemy positions. It's about getting people on the same page. If you're low on health and afraid to peek, you need to let your team know so that they can cover you. Communication is a massive skill that is super tough to learn, but just start by saying what you're doing and what you see, and after you got that down, branch out into suggesting plans. Keep this up for a couple dozen games and you'll go far, kid. Now for mistake number 4, planting the spike might seem straightforward, but doing it in the wrong spot can cost your team the round very easily. So we're attacking on bind and we've successfully taken control of the A site. We're the designated spike carrier. So we run out our showers and we plant the spike in the corner of triple. Pretty normal spot, right? Well, maybe, until you get picked off and your teammates from U-Haul lose the round because they can't see the damn spike. As a general rule, when you plant the spike, you want it to be visible from all the possible locations that your team might be playing from in post plants. Not only that, but you also want the spike to be placed while facing towards a wall so that even if it does get smoked off, it's a lot easier to spam. Good spike placement allows your team to cover the defuse from multiple angles, forcing the enemy team to clear more positions and making it harder for them to get the defuse off. You also don't want to commit to planting the spike before your team has even cleared the site. Especially if you're a support player, you probably run into this issue a lot because you plant the spike a lot. If you don't clear the site, it's very likely you're going to die while planting, or that one of your teammates will die and you won't be there to trade them. You have time in the round, and most rounds are not won on time anyway. Secure the site, make sure it's clear, and then commit to the plant. This way, when you do plant, you won't have to commit to a horrible plant location anyway, because it'll be safe to choose a good one. This will be one of the tips that you don't exactly feel all of the time, but you'll certainly notice how much harder it is to win the round when the spike is planted in a bad spot going forward. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that low elo players make is doing the same thing every single round. You're playing on Haven and you swing garage every round. You might get a pick or two at first, but soon enough the enemy team catches on. They pre-aim you and they kill you. And then you try it again because it's worked before and the same thing happens. So maybe one round you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to swing garage this time. I'm just going to hold it. And then they flash you and run you down. Listen, dude, it is obvious that you are playing garage. You've become predictable, and predictability is a death sentence in Valorant. The problem with doing the same thing every single round is that it makes you really easy to read. Good players can develop maybe 5 or 6 different strategies to abuse your position if they know exactly where you're going to be every single round. To avoid this, you need to mix up your strategies. If you get a kill or 2 peeking garage, maybe try to walk up C one round, or even set up a trap play in garage so that when they try to come and punish you, you can actually shut them down. As much of an FPS that Valorant is, it's also a strategy game. By changing up your approach and keeping the enemy guessing, you will become much harder to target and pin down and increase your chances of winning rounds. Now, for mistake number 6, one of the common pitfalls for low elo players is playing too slow. Valorant is a tactical shooter, but that doesn't mean that you should be moving at a snail's pace. When you play too slow, you give the enemy team too much time to adjust to your play. Not only that, but some of you would literally sooner wait out the round rather than entry onto a site. No, really, take a look at this clip from a VOD review I did recently. So you end up rotating over towards A. I actually don't know what you guys are doing. See what I mean? Like, we're like, there's 40 seconds left in the round and we haven't left spawn yet. Like, we took B main, I guess. So that kind of works. But this is what I was saying, where it feels like you guys would sooner run out of time than enter site, you know? So I just want to see a little bit more confidence from you guys. Oh my gosh. We're 17 seconds left. We're still in spawn. We ran out of time. We weren't able to... It happened. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I mean, like, you get my point now, though. So now, I'm not saying that it's better, but in high elo, rounds will literally be over in seconds because players just run it down at the speed of light. A lot of it has to do with a fear and confidence issue here. In low elo, they have no confidence, so they just won't scale up. Whereas in high elo, they have too much confidence, so they just run it down. You've got to find that middle ground. Don't be afraid to push forward all of the time. Sometimes you should be afraid to push forward. Like, if your team has a huge advantage and you don't want to throw that advantage, sometimes it's good to play slow. But like, if your team needs a play to win the round, you have to be willing to play aggressive and make that play. You can't just sit back and wait for your teammates to do it, because that's how you end up hard stuck, and you don't want to be hard stuck. Now, for mistake number 7, lurking can be a very powerful strategy, but lurking on the opposite side of the map can be really dangerous because you risk getting no value. Your teammates might be fearless and book it into sight, getting themselves killed. If you're too far away, your lurk won't contribute to a fight at all, leaving you in a 1v4. Lurking in the middle of the map is often a much better approach. It puts you in the prime position to cut off enemy rotates, catch flanking opponents, and quickly join the team if needed. For example, lurking around mid on ascent gives you the flexibility to rotate quickly to either site, support your team, and gather crucial information about enemy movements. If you decide to lurk on the opposite side of the map, it can work if your team plays slow and you're making the calls. But this requires good communication and a solid understanding of the game's tempo. If your team doesn't communicate well, or if you're not confident in making calls, it's easier to find value in the center of the map. By positioning yourself this way, you can still gather information that is good for your teammate, but you're not completely out of the fight. Remember as well that lurking isn't just about being sneaky. Sometimes it can also just be about pulling the defender's focus away from your team. If you get spotted in mid, take advantage of that and leverage your position to help your team. Keep people occupied without risking your own life if you can. Maybe land a kill and then keep making noise so that the attention is split. They can't exactly commit to a retake while they've got this thorn in their side in mid, so this is another way that you can get a ton of value out of your lurks on offense. Alright though guys, before we wrap this up, let me tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that is a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered you that. Not us though. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well in fact that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses. No one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord so that you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game who will respond to all of your questions asked. Not only that, but we even occasionally do VOD reviews for our users in Discord, so you can hear personalized feedback directed at the exact issues that you are having. You can sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to be all for this one today though. My name is Casey. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.